Oakville's elite jewelry store Paradise Diamond's most dreaded manager, David, was all smiles. Well, why wouldn't he be? His smile tightened like a rubber band, holding the cold satisfaction of a well-played hand as he watched the cops haul away his new victim. The man of color in cuffs was just another vulnerable shopper trapped in David's orchestrated lie. Another one bites the dust, Sheriff, David purred, extending a hand. The sheriff, a burly man in a Stetson that barely contained his bushy eyebrows, slapped it with a practiced grin. Thanks to your keen eye, David. You got a nose for trouble sharper than a Doberman's, he chuckled. This one was racking up quite a tab on the rings, if you know what I mean. David's smile twisted slightly. Didn't take much convincing, Sheriff. Just a whispered word in your ear, and presto, instant justice. David leaned closer. It helps when the suspect fits the profile, don't you think? David's eyes, as blue as the sky before a storm, darted nervously towards the cruiser where the handcuffed man sat, his head bowed, muttering words that sounded like, "I ain't done nothin', please let me go. I'm innocent." David scoffed, the diamonds on his pinky ring winking like cold, judgmental eyes. He ain't talking to you, Sheriff. He's talking to the cuffs, to the concrete cell he's about to call home. Ain't that right, buddy? He threw a mocking glance towards the back seat and barked. Well, this is what folks like you get for trying to steal. Officer, take him away. The man of color in the cruiser lifted his head, his face creased with agony. You might think you won, manager, he rasped. But you ain't seen nothin' yet. Truth has a way of shining through, and you won't get away for long for framing me. David flinched with a sheepish grin and straightened his collar. The cruiser's siren faded into the city's hum, leaving sales assistant Natalie staring after it like a kicked puppy. That, she choked out, words barely escaping past the lump in her throat, was messed up, Mr. Peterson. Like really messed up. He didn't do anything. David angrily spun towards her. His smile, usually a greasy charm, now twisted into a viper's sneer. Messed up? He drawled. Little Natalie with her big opinions, huh? This ain't your neighborhood block party, sweetheart. This is business. And I decide what's right. And what's wrong. Nobody dictates me, you hear me, darling? He flicked a dust speck off his immaculate suit, staring daggers at Natalie. Besides, that innocent customer was lifting merch like a squirrel hoarding nuts. You think I play Santa all year round? I saw him stealing the jewels. Natalie clenched her fists, nails digging into soft palms. She knew David. Knew the smirk meant he held a trump card, the glint in his eyes a promise of worse to come. She was a single mom, juggling rent and soccer practice schedules on a shoestring budget. With its threadbare benefits and lukewarm coffee, this job was her lifeline she couldn't risk. Look, she swallowed. I ain't judging, all right? But framing someone, that's just low. You can't be so mean to someone. He's innocent. He had come to shop for his daughter's earrings. He didn't steal, Mr. Peterson. I saw you putting those gold rings in his bag. Please, this is just getting worse. At this rate, I'm afraid our store's reputation will be tarnished. Only people of color are being constantly arrested for theft here. David's smile widened like a shark scenting blood. That's low. You said? Honey, I haven't yet dipped my toes in the deep end. You keep flapping your gums like a magpie on speed, and you might find yourself taking a swim with the fish without a life jacket. Or even worse. How about washing the store's toilets? He strolled closer, his breath a stale cocktail of cigarettes and misplaced authority. Remember, Natalie, silence is golden. And in this little kingdom, I'm the one who makes the rules. I'm the store manager. Messin' with me is like messin' with the devil. You hear me, darling? Natalie stood frozen, caught between defiance and fear. The air buzzed with unspoken threats, the weight of her future hanging precariously on David's whims. One word, one misstep, and she'd be tossed aside like yesterday's garbage. It was then, watching a little girl skip past, clutching a tattered teddy bear, that Natalie made her choice. She needed to keep this job for her son. She needed to keep her mouth shut. She needed to ignore David and his evil deeds. Natalie straightened her spine, a tiny flicker of steel gushing into her eyes. "Fine," she spat. "But watch your back, Mr. Peterson. Karma's a sneaky little bugger with a mean right hook." David's lips curled into a surprised smirk. He scowled at Natalie, his disdain evident in the tight lines of his face, as he sidled past her and into the store, swearing under his breath. The clack of his polished shoes echoed ominously against the tiled floor. In his dimly lit office, he busily sipped his black coffee. His eyes fixated on the monitor, which displayed live CCTV footage of the store. Each screen displayed sections bustling with unsuspecting customers. Rich women clad in the finest attire, some accompanied by gentlemen, and there were curious teenagers. David's brows arched in surprise when a new face appeared on one of the screens. A black woman browsing the ladies' section caught his attention. At first glance, he saw her eyeing a display of glistening gold bracelets. A cruel smirk crept across David's face as he observed her, plotting his next move. "Gotcha!" he exclaimed and hurried to the jewelry section where the woman was standing, naive of the storm arriving her way. Without hesitation, David snatched a gold bracelet from the display when nobody looked. The cold metal felt foreign in his hand as he expertly slipped it into the unsuspecting woman's bag. His eyes darted around to ensure his covert operation went unnoticed. Just as the woman turned around to step out of the store entrance to answer a phone call, the alarms erupted in a cacophony of shrill wails, capturing the attention of all the other customers. Panic spread like wildfire through the store, and the atmosphere crackled with tension. David's heart raced, adrenaline pumping as he relished the chaos he had orchestrated. As the woman froze to the ground, oblivious to the stolen item in her possession, the eyes of the entire store turned towards her. Amid the chaos, David hastened through the crowd and reached the entrance just in time to witness the unfolding drama. He held back his smile, although he wanted to chuckle at yet another victorious feat. "Whoa, what's going on?" exclaimed a bewildered customer. "I think someone stole something," another voice chimed in, staring unkindly at the woman. Amid the commotion, David blended in seamlessly, his facade of concern mirroring that of the unsuspecting shoppers. "What's happening, Mr. Peterson?" Natalie questioned. "Wait, did you just? Looks like we've got another thief in the store." "Stop, don't move, miss." David cut off Natalie, the corners of his mouth curling into a deceptive smile, as he stared at the woman, Naomi. The alarms continued to blare, drawing even more attention. "Excuse me, ma'am, you're gonna have to come with me," David declared as he approached the unsuspecting woman, his tone dripping with feigned authority. Naomi, startled and confused, protested. "What? What did I do? Looks like you've got something that doesn't belong to you." David sneered, his eyes scanning the bracelet racks. "Bingo, a missing bracelet. I'm going to have to detain you," he continued, pointing at her bag. As Naomi insisted on her innocence, the surrounding customers exchanged hushed whispers, their eyes glued suspiciously to her bag. Naomi was caught in the spotlight. "Detained?" she snapped, staring intently at David. "On what grounds? I haven't done anything wrong. I don't understand what's going on over here. Why is everybody looking at me like that? I didn't do anything. I didn't steal any bracelet. Don't play coy, sweetheart." David furrowed his brows. "I saw you eyeing those bracelets for a really long time ever since you walked into the store. Then poof, one goes missing. Ain't rocket science, doll. You better quit wasting my time and come with me to my office." But Naomi didn't back down. "Listen, I haven't seen this bracelet in my life. she pleaded. Never held it, or any of the other stuff here. I was just checking them out. Please, you have to believe me. This is some messed up misunderstanding. David's smirk turned into a brittle grimace. This wasn't going according to his script. He needed fear, not confrontation. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a growl. Misunderstanding? Honey, the alarm ain't singing opera over a misplaced bobby pin. You put something in your bag yourself, right slick as oil. Naomi's breath itched, but her chin stayed high. No, she spat. You want proof? Fine. Empty my bag right here, right now. Show everyone this supposed evidence you're spouting. I didn't steal anything. Your alarms are faulty. David smiled. This was what he had wanted, publicly emptying her bag to expose his little trick. Fine, he snarled, grabbing Naomi's bag. Let's see if your innocence shines as bright as those gold baubles, shall we? He ripped the bag open, the silence in the store thick enough to choke on. The other shoppers flocked around as David dropped the contents. And there, nestled innocently amongst a crumpled receipt and a lipstick tube, lay the glittering bracelet with the price tag. Naomi's eyes widened. Oh my God! I didn't steal this bracelet. She gasped, beads of sweat forming on her temples. I don't know how this got inside my bag. The world seemed to tilt on its axis, Naomi's gaze locked on the bracelet like a deer frozen in headlights. Her blood turned to ice in her veins, the accusations echoing in her ears like a relentless drumbeat. Nothing to hide, huh? David sneered. Then why the pale face, sweetheart? This little sparkler looks right at home in your purse, wouldn't you say? Did it crawl all the way up into your bag, huh, honey? He held up the gold bracelet, its diamonds catching the light like accusing eyes. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, whispers turning into gasps of shock. Naomi's lips parted, but no words came out. Her mind reeled, searching for logic in the quicksand of accusation. She stuttered, the single word a frail protest against the rising tide of doubt. I swear. Please. You have to believe me. I didn't. Don't waste your breath, darling. The evidence speaks for itself. Follow me to my office. David shoved the bracelet in his pocket and sidled past Naomi. Maybe you can explain it all to the cops on your way downtown. But before that, you have some explaining to do back in my office. Hurry up. Shame, hot and stinging, flooded Naomi's cheeks. The eyes around her, once curious, now bore the weight of judgment as she shakily followed David to his office. A shiver crawled up Naomi's spine as the office door slammed shut behind them. Hope you enjoyed your little tantrum. Sweetheart. David spat, breaking the silence. Tantrum? This is about clearing my name. I didn't steal that bracelet. Naomi squared her shoulders. David scoffed, the bracelet glinting accusingly in his hand. Then explain this, princess. Found it nestled away, safe and sound, in your little treasure trove. How did it get in there if you didn't steal it? Nestled. More like planted. Naomi shot back, her eyes narrowed. This feels like a setup, Mr. Manager. Have you even bothered checking the footage? Or do you just jump to conclusions on a whim? Why would I steal when I can afford to buy not one but 5 such bracelets? David's face flushed red when she showed him her platinum credit card. Footage? You think I'm some rookie? He blustered, his voice losing its edge. The evidence speaks for itself, doll. You put it in your bag, plain and simple. Don't think you can get away by showing me your card. I've seen people like you before, with the same old tales. Naomi's gaze flickered across the cluttered office. Or maybe someone else did, she argued, desperation etched on her face. Consider that, Mr. Manager. Maybe someone's trying to frame me. I didn't steal the damn bracelet. You have to check the CCTV footage and find out who did this. This is bizarre and unfair. You can't blindly accuse me of a crime without solid evidence. David's eyes widened. Evidence? Eh? He scowled, his eyes not leaving Naomi's. Well, we'll see about that. But before that, let me just get us some privacy, yeah, darling? How about I close that door, huh? Once again, the office door slammed shut with a thud, rattling Naomi's bones. But this time, David made sure to lock it. Hey, she barked, the word cracking in the tense silence. Open this damn door. Thick, suffocating silence engulfed her, and her heart pounded against her ribs in fear. Panic pricked at Naomi like 1,000 tiny needles. Her gaze darted around the office, landing on the walls plastered with obscene posters. Women, curvy and scantily clad, stared back with vacant eyes from a line of posters. Not the kind of decor you'd see in a family-friendly store, that's for damn sure. Naomi's gut clenched. This wasn't just about a supposedly stolen bracelet anymore. This was about a man marking his territory. You heard me, Naomi roared, slamming her fist against the door. Let me out of here, manager. The only answer was her echo taunting her from the shadowed corners. What was David planning? Was this some sick game he's played with all his female employees, and some vulnerable shoppers? The posters, the isolation, the sudden accusation, it screamed danger, sending shivers down Naomi's spine. Please, why are you doing this? I didn't steal anything. Let me go. Please, she begged. David, leaning back in his chair, let out a slow, grating chuckle. Relax, sweetheart, he drawled, eyes scanning her from head to toe with a coldness that made Naomi squirm. No need to get your feathers ruffled. This isn't about you, trust me. And don't worry. I have better choices. You, my dear, are certainly not my type. Naomi's fists clenched. His dismissive tone did little to quell the rising panic in her chest. Then what is it about? She snapped, her voice steady despite the trembling in her legs. David snorted, his gaze lingering on her for a beat too long. Let's just say, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. But don't worry, I have no interest in playing some creepy Hollywood stalker routine with you. You wouldn't be my type, even if you were the last woman on Earth. I can barely stand seeing your damn face for 5 seconds. The insult stung, but Naomi refused to let it show. She needed to stay calm and assess the situation. David's words hinted at something deeper beyond a simple accusation of theft. What was he really up to? Why was he staring at her from top to bottom again? And why were there no cameras in his office? Naomi had no answers to these questions. There was only one thing she was certain: she was trapped. Then what do you want, manager? She asked. David laughed, a harsh, humorless sound that made her blood run cold. You have some nerve, I'll give you that. He chuckled, shaking his head. But why don't you take a seat and make yourself comfortable? We have a lot to discuss. Naomi hesitated, her eyes flitting to the door, then back to him. She told David she was a single mother, and her son was waiting for her. Every minute wasted here is another minute away from him. I can't stay, she pleaded, her voice tight with urgency. I need to go. My son, he must be waiting for me to pick him up. Please, I need to go. David's smile vanished, replaced by a sickening glint in his eyes. Need or not, sweetheart, you're going to listen, he said, his voice low and menacing. This isn't a request. Trust me, you don't want to end up behind bars tonight, wondering where your kid will spend the holidays. How about you press your little rear on the chair and listen to me? Naomi's heart raced. David's veiled threat, the fabricated accusation, hung heavy in the air. With trembling legs, she sank into the chair, her mind racing. That's my girl. You wasted 5 minutes of my precious time. Never mind. Every minute wasted comes with a price. David chuckled as he zoomed in on the monitor, the screen flickering with grainy CCTV footage. Naomi's breath hitched in her throat as she recognized the scene, the jewelry display, her browsing fingers, and then, a flash of movement, David's hand, slipping something small and gold into her open purse when she didn't notice. The world warped and tilted. The bracelet, the accusation, the locked door, it all clicked into place like a cruel puzzle. David had framed her, weaving a web of deceit while she remained blissfully unaware. The revelation hit her like a physical blow, leaving her numb with shock and fear. "You framed me for theft?" Naomi's eyes bulged with disbelief as David stared at her and squared his shoulders. "Why? Why would you do this?" David's smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of confusion. He zoomed in on the footage again, his brow furrowed in concentration. "That's odd," he muttered, rewinding the clip. "What's odd, David?" Naomi pressed. "Why did you put the damn bracelet in my purse and frame me?" He didn't answer right away, his eyes glued to the screen. Finally, he turned to her, a strange mix of curiosity and unease twisting his features. "It seems you didn't put the bracelet in your bag," he admitted, his voice tight. "Yeah, you're right, babe. I did it. So what now?" Naomi stared at him, stunned. The accusation, the fear, the suffocating panic, it all seemed to drain away in a slow, dizzying spiral. "So, you're saying I'm innocent?" David finished, his tone clipped. "But who's going to believe you? Just look at you. Who will take your word and not mine, huh, honey? I make the rules, all the rules here. And if I say you're a thief, you are a damn thief." Naomi's anger, pent up and raw, burst to the surface. "So it was all a joke? Some sick game you play with women of color who visit your store?" David scoffed, but the edge was gone, replaced by a nervous twitch in his jaw. "Don't play the race card, sweetheart. This is business, not some twisted fantasy. You should have thought twice before walking into a grand jewelry store in your skin. See those people there?" David pointed to a section bustling with white shoppers. "Nobody will believe me if I say one of them shoplifted something. They don't quite look like thieves, unlike people like you. It's purely business, dear. Business?" Naomi spat, her voice rising. "What kind of business involves framing innocent people? Why the hell are you doing this?" "David?" David's eyes flickered away, avoiding her gaze. He ran a hand through his hair. "Look," he mumbled. "Things are complicated. Just stay here, keep quiet, and do as I say." Naomi's fists clenched. "Keep quiet? You think you can just trap me here like a caged animal? I need to go. Open the damn door now." The question hung heavy in the air, unanswered. An alarm suddenly pierced the stillness. David swore under his breath, his eyes darting to the monitor above his desk. He cursed again, this time with a different kind of joy in his voice. "Bingo. Looks like we've got another one of those victims today," he muttered, zooming in on the screen. Naomi followed his gaze, a flicker of curiosity sparking amidst the fog of confusion. The footage showed the store floor, a young black woman browsing near the jewelry display. But then, something shifted. An unseen hand, nimble and quick, slipped something small and shiny into the woman's purse. Naomi gasped, the truth dawning on her like a cold slap. David wasn't the only one. He had accomplices working in the store, dancing to his twisted tune. His eyes met hers, a dark secret shared in the flickering light of the monitor. "Stay here," he barked, the command laced with desperation. "Don't try to act smart." He rushed out of the office and back into the store. Naomi scrambled for the door, her heart hammering against her ribs. But it was locked. She rattled the knob, desperate, but the only answer was the mocking silence of the locked door. Her phone, clutched tight in her clammy hand, displayed the chilling message. "No signal." Panic bubbled up, a bitter bile in her throat. She was alone, cut off from the world, trapped in a room of nightmares. Naomi wandered across the office, eyes darting for any hint of escape. Bookshelves crammed with dusty trophies, framed pictures of smiling executives, and those lewd posters. Nothing offered solace, nothing whispered a path out. Suddenly, a sound sliced through the suffocating silence. A loud bang, followed by the frantic squeak of hinges. An adjacent door burst open, and Natalie stood in the doorway, face flushed and eyes wide with fear. "Miss Naomi!" she gasped, rushing in and gently slamming the door shut behind her. "You have to get out of here. David, he's a terrible guy. He won't let you go. Please, just run before he gets back." Naomi stared at her, a flicker of hope battling the lingering fear. This young sales assistant stood there, risking her own safety to offer an escape. "There's an exit," Natalie whispered, shoving a wad of dollar bills into Naomi's hands. "Out there, near the loading dock. Just go, please. I'll hold him off if he returns to the store and asks me about you. Why are you giving me money?" Naomi furrowed her brows. "Just a token of apology. He's been doing this for months," Natalie choked out, tears welling in her eyes. "Black customers framed accused. He blames us for the bad sales and says we scare the black folks away. Please don't post any bad reviews on our store. I know what he did is cruel. But there are a bunch of good people working here, and we can't afford to risk our bread and butter because of one man's mistakes. Please run." Naomi's jaw clenched. This wasn't just about a bracelet. It was about something far bigger, far more insidious. "No," she refused, her voice surprisingly steady. "I won't run. I didn't steal anything, and I won't hide. There's recorded CCTV evidence. I'm not backing off until I know why he's doing this." Natalie's eyes widened in protest. "But Naomi, please. You have to think of your safety. What if—" Suddenly, the muffled sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the air, cutting Natalie's pleas short. David was coming. "Go," Naomi rasped, gripping Natalie's shoulders. "Get back to work, please. I'll handle this." With shock etched on her face, Natalie locked eyes with Naomi for a silent moment. Then, with a final, desperate nod, she slipped out of the office, the door closing behind her with a soft click. Naomi stood alone, facing the approaching darkness. The air crackled with tense anticipation, and beads of cold sweat broke onto her forehead. The click of the lock echoed like a gunshot in the tense silence. Naomi spun around, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. David sauntered in, face contorted in a mask of barely contained fury. "Well, well, well," he sneered, his gaze raking over Naomi like a predator sizing up its prey. "Look who decided to stick around. So, what have you decided? Ready to go to jail? Or obey me?" Despite the tremor in her legs, Naomi stood tall, feigning a calmness she didn't feel. "Why did you do it, David?" Her voice steady despite the lump of fear clogging her throat. "Why plant that bracelet in my bag? What do you want?" David snorted, a harsh, humorless sound shattering the stillness and Naomi's heavy breaths. "Because you were the perfect victim, sweetheart," he spat, venom lacing his words. "Naive, scared, just another vulnerable shopper. People like you only come into this store to steal." Naomi's anger, a simmering ember, flared into a roaring inferno. "I didn't steal anything." "You framed me," she retorted. "There are cameras, David. Records. You can't just—" David chuckled, a cold, empty sound that sent shivers down Naomi's spine. "Cameras?" he scoffed, his eyes gleaming with a cruel amusement. "You're so naive, I swear. Think I'm stupid enough to leave evidence lying around?" He strode towards his desk, a predatory grace in his movements. In a wink, he tapped a button on his computer, the monitor flickering to life. A swirling kaleidoscope of static replaced the familiar footage of the jewelry display. Naomi's blood ran cold when the screen went blank. See? David smirked. Bug in the system. Poof! No cameras, no footage, no record of your little innocent shopping spree. Just you, the stolen bracelet, and a one-way ticket to jail. Naomi felt the floor jolt beneath her. Terror coiled around her neck, stealing her breath. Her carefully constructed defiance crumbled like sandcastles under a tidal wave. She was trapped, alone, facing a man who held the keys to her freedom and destruction. So, sweetheart, David drawled. Nobody to believe you, nobody to help. Just me. And right now your freedom comes at a small price, $500. Think you can afford it? Naomi stared at him, her mind racing. Now she understood what this was all about. $500, a small sum for some, but a fortune for a mother juggling bills and dreams. David laughed. Think again. A jail cell, a stolen future from your son. Would you still mind giving me the cash to buy your freedom? Naomi swallowed the lump of fear in her throat, her eyes locking with David's. You can't just do this, she stammered, her voice cracking with a raw vulnerability. Why? Why me? Why? Because you should have thought twice before walking in here. David chuckled. Tears welled in Naomi's eyes, blurring the edges of the monster before her. The injustice of it all, the sheer cruelty, stunned her in disbelief. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not to her. But what could she do now? This is unfair. It's a scam. Why should I give you money when I'm innocent? She snapped. David tilted his head, a mocking glint in his eyes. Did you say scam, sweetheart? Call it business, he purred. You broke the rules. Now you pay the price. Hurry up. I don't have all day. There were no rules. You planted that bracelet, you framed me. Naomi shook her head, a desperate denial. Late to the party, aren't you? David taunted, relishing her despair. And trust me, doll, you're not the only one who gets to play my little game. I've played this game with many. No regrets. Just pure business. Naomi's world spun. The anger she'd fought to hold back flared like wildfire. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? She whispered. How many women and vulnerable people have you hurt? David shrugged. Business fluctuates, darling. Sometimes it's slower. Sometimes it's brisk. His gaze, cold and calculating, slid over her once more, a sneer twisting his lips. Sometimes I call it a lucky day when I manage to make more than $2,000 a day by just planting things in my victims' bags. You're sick. Naomi spat. You should have chosen a different store. Sweetheart. David leaned closer. These diamonds, these trinkets, are not for the likes of you. Window shopping is all you can afford, isn't it? The sting of his words, laced with venomous classism, was a fresh wound bleeding in her heart. Naomi, tears blurring her vision, swallowed her pride, her voice a choked whisper. Please, David, she pleaded, her hand reaching out instinctively. Just let me go. I won't tell anyone, I swear. He recoiled, a look of disgust contorting his features as her hand neared his arm. Stay back. He spat, his voice tight with a sudden, unexpected fear. Don't touch me. I don't want any of your diseases. The insult, venomous and vile, struck Naomi like a physical blow. The sting of tears on her cheeks was nothing compared to the searing fire of his prejudice, his bigotry burning hotter than any diamond in his store. Shame and anger flooded Naomi's veins. Damn! This is taking more time than I'd expected. $500 or jail. David stared daggers at her. Tears stung Naomi's eyes as she rummaged through her purse, fingers trembling against the worn leather. She grabbed $500 and tossed the bills onto the table, the sound sharp and brittle in the oppressive silence. David's eyes lit up like a predator spotting prey. He snatched the money, fingers dancing with greed. A flicker of hope sparked in Naomi's chest for a fleeting moment. Maybe, just maybe, this was over. Perhaps he'd let her go. But the hope died a swift, brutal death as David reached for his phone with a smirk twisting his lips. His finger tapped the screen, dialing a number with practiced ease. "Another one, officer," he announced into the receiver, his voice dripping with mockery. "Shoplifter at Paradise Diamonds. Bracelet. Yeah, gold, expensive piece. Hurry up, you wouldn't want her getting away, right?" The world lurched beneath Naomi's feet. Panic, icy and primal, gripped her throat. "What are you doing?" she cried. "I gave you the money. Why did you call the cops?" David laughed, a high, unsettling sound that grated on her raw nerves. "Thank you, sweetheart," he purred, pocketing the bills with a wink. "Consider it an early Christmas bonus. Mine, to be precise. Besides, my job fetches me an even juicier bonus for getting thieves arrested. I'm sure I'm in for a handsome bonus this year and a promotion. Can't wait, honey." David winked. The realization, cold and bitter, flooded through Naomi. She'd been a fool, a pawn in his sick game. All that pleading and fear had been orchestrated for his own twisted amusement. You tricked me," she spat. David shrugged, nonchalant in his villainy. "Vulnerability can be quite persuasive, sweetheart. Now, after tonight, maybe you'll think twice before browsing jewelry you can't afford." His words, dripping with classism and contempt, were a final slap in the face. "You think you're the only one who plays games, David?" Naomi retorted. "You think I'm just going to walk away after this? Blah, blah, blah. Say more." "I ain't listening to you, honey," David teased. "Save your sob stories for the station, babe. Hurry up, let's go out. I don't want people assuming nasty things because I think we spent a good half an hour locked up in this room, honey?" Naomi's jaw clenched, and her eyes blazed with fury. "You're sick. You think this is funny, David? You'll get what's coming to you. Mark my words." David laughed and waved his hands dismissively. "Oh, please, darling. Same old tired act. Broken record on repeat." He snagged her arm, his grip like a vice in a velvet glove. Shoppers gasped and buzzed like flies around a dropped popsicle when David led Naomi out of his office and onto the bustling floor as soon as he heard the sirens blare outside the store. "That woman's the thief," one whispered, clutching a pearl necklace as if Naomi might snatch it too. "Third shoplifting today, can you believe it? Such a waste, shame on them." Another chimed in, shaking her head disapprovingly. "Needs some manners, that one. Just look at her audacity." Officer Daniels and his partners cut through the whispers, their faces etched